All right, welcome to another lesson. I'm excited for this one because we're getting very close to creating your testing campaign, which is where you will finally be able to start posting. There's just a couple of different skill sets we need to complete covering in order for you to be ready to do this successfully. So let's hop onto my computer and get here into lesson 5, which is how to create a perfect slideshow. A slideshow is just a type of post on TikTok where instead of uploading a video, you instead upload a series of images that then act as a slideshow when they're posted, so people can scroll through them or slide through them. And on one side of the spectrum, slideshows are easier to create than videos, but on the other, they are also harder because you can't really sync the music you're going to be using with the transitions of each slide, and the text that you're using on slideshows isn't going to be as alive per se as someone actually speaking, and people just don't get as emotionally invested. But with the drawbacks being said, slideshows still work wonders, especially on new accounts, and this is the framework of how to make a perfect one. And the first thing we need to do here is understand emotions, because before we generate the perfect pictures using Midjourney, we need to simplify this process. So some of the basic emotions are sadness, happiness, fear, anger, surprise, disgust. And the reason I'm stating these here is because in your slideshows, you'll be telling a story, and you have to know what emotions you want to invoke. Without an objective, there's no real way to actually grow and do this time and time again. When you know how you're structuring a post and what the objective is, and it works or it doesn't work, you then know what to do more of and what not to do more of. So after you understand what emotion you're going to be using, then we get into the scripting. So let's take, for example, that we want to write a winning script for a slideshow right now and tie this all together and make an example. The first thing we need to do is choose a goal from lesson 3. Do you remember where we talked about the different types of things we want to figure out, of relating to people, triggering people, giving them value? We need to choose a goal, and that's when we can decide how our script is going to come together. So let's say I'm choosing the goal that I want to find out what is triggering my viewers. And then next, I need to have an ideal audience. So I came up with this random example here of saying I want to trigger single men. And in doing that with a slideshow, I now need to create a hook using the lesson material and how to write winning scripts. I could use this one right here. It says, why men get overwhelmed by their negative thoughts and stay single. And the reason why in the lesson on how to write winning scripts has a huge focus on just the hook for the most part is because the rest of the script is actually a lot easier than you would expect. And you don't have to even know about the topic or niche that you're in. Of course, as you post more and more about it, you'll learn more and be able to do it on your own. But starting out, if I want to trigger single men and I don't know why they get overwhelmed by their negative thoughts and stay single, then I could just do some simple research like on Google. I pretty much just looked up on Google, why do men stay single? Why are men upset about being single? And I found this little article someone had wrote about these different reasons, and I was able to go through and see, okay, this has some validity, this one maybe not so much. And it talks about things here like societal pressure, fear of missing out, loneliness, low self-esteem. You know, for the most part, these are pretty spot on. And this isn't me having to come up with something in my head. I can just do some quick research, find validated articles like this one, and get into this part, wrapping everything up. So every slideshow is going to be a minimum of 2 slides to a maximum of 10. That's all that's allowed. And for a triggering slideshow, my objective being I want to know what is triggering my viewers, there doesn't really have to be a solution. So a solution is usually at the end of something, let's say for a value post. At the end, there's a solution to the problem that you're stating. But for this, there's really only going to be a hook and the problems, because I want to find out why these men are getting triggered. So when I tie everything together here, taking my hook that I came up with, why men get overwhelmed by their negative thoughts and stay single, that's my hook, which will be on slide 1. And now I need to go ahead and continue the rest of the slides here on the script. So I went ahead and just chose 4 out of the 5 things on this list and kind of summarized them to be a little bit shorter. This person here in this article wrote a few sentences, but ideally on a slide, the less text, the better. So what I'm going to be doing here, as you can see in slide 2, is going to be having a big text, which you'll see a visual of shortly, societal pressure, and then I'll explain this remaining part where I say single men believe that being in a relationship is a sign of success and that being single is lesser. And if you look at all of these here, you can see that I start with single min blank, single min blank. And the reason why is because I'm trying to figure out what is triggering single min the most. And the way I'm doing that is by testing these 4 different options right here. And I'm really pinpointing on the pains. So in fear of missing out, slide number 3, I'm saying single men believe that they are missing out. And this fear is particularly strong if they have friends in a happy relationship. And in loneliness, single men get stuck on social media and make themselves believe that everyone else is in a happy relationship. Low self-esteem, single men believe that they are not attractive or desirable enough to be in a relationship. So odds are, a single man going through this slideshow probably isn't going to relate with all of these, but maybe one of them or 2 of them is going to really hit home, and that's when we can figure out what's triggering them. And now we're going to generate the images. This is the next part of our slideshow, the background content itself. So yes, we don't generate content using Midjourney and then put text over it or just reuse the same images all the time. We create a script and then make images that relate to that script specifically. And the easiest way to go about creating the perfect images using Midjourney inside of a slideshow is to first label each slide by emotion. Because when you do this, we can then plug in these different emotions into our prompts on Midjourney that populate images that follow a theme and also match the emotion of each problem. So what I did here is went into slide 1. I said, okay, why men get overwhelmed by their negative thoughts and stay single? And I would label that as kind of curiosity. Then we get into societal pressure, put pressured. And then fear of missing out, I put fear. Loneliness, lonely. Low self-esteem, unconfident. And now this just makes the next part much easier. So for generating slide number 1, this is the prompt that I put in. I said, married man, content face, comma, set with dark professional colors, comma, portrait style, light shining on him, comma, scene, and then my aspect ratio. And you may be wondering now, Tanner, if this is about single men and hitting on their pain points and their problems, why would you put a married man as the first slide? This doesn't look like someone with low self-esteem and is single and struggling. Well, the reason is because the audience we're targeting is much more likely to pay attention to an authoritative figure who appears to have surpassed the pain that they are currently in compared to the contrary. Nobody is going to listen to the opinions of a broken single man if they are a broken single man. And then after generating the first slide, we get to go into the next one. So the next emotion is pressured. So what I went ahead and did is on Midjourney, I put modern day single man sad, comma, room with dark casual colors, comma, portrait style light shining in, comma, scene, and then my aspect ratio. And this was one of the results that I received that I thought fit what I was going to be doing best. Now, what I'm imagining here when I'm generating slideshow pictures like this is I'm just imagining the text that's going to be going over it. So I'm just imagining already, okay, if I know my slide 2 script is societal pressure and then a little sentence, all right, I'm just already imagining what it's going to be looking like once we piece everything together. We'll have my first big title here, societal pressure, and then the sentence maybe above or even over the person. But we'll get there when we get there. Then slide number 3, emotion is fear. So then I changed the prompt up a little bit. Modern day single man, fear of missing out, comma, room with dark casual colors, portrait style light shining on him, scene, and then my aspect ratio. So you can see really the main things that I'm changing here now in the problem slideshows is that I'm just changing the emotional aspect. So fear of missing out, then here sad, and just kind of going that route. And the reason I'm going that route is because I'm trying to keep a theme here. The theme of this right now is kind of this dark colors, and we're hitting on these pain points and these problems. So I want to keep everything aligned. So then into slide number 4, loneliness, same thing. All I'm doing is putting sad, lonely, modern, single man, and then everything else is the same. Now, you may notice that the beginning part here of who is this person is a little bit different from this one. Instead of modern day single man, fear of missing out, I put sad, lonely, modern, single man instead of modern single man who's sad and lonely. And the reason why is because sometimes the result that comes out of a prompt just isn't exactly maybe what I have in my mind. So I just tweak the prompt a little bit. And usually when I do this, it'll give me better results that I think better fit what I'm trying to do. The more you do this, the easier it'll get for you to know what type of prompts to put in to get the right outcome. Now, the slide number 5 emotion is all about being unconfident, low self-esteem. So what I did in here is I said modern day single man, self-conscious, out of shape, and then everything else is the same. Now, the reason I ended up adding self-conscious, out of shape is because I tried just putting here unconfident, and it just didn't really fit who I was looking for in this type of image. It was giving me an image of someone who looked like more had their shit together, to be blunt. And I didn't want that. I wanted it to be focused on an unconfident, low self-esteem individual and just kind of this dark theme attached to it. I want the emotion of the image to match the text that's over. I'm trying to trigger the people here. So it gave me this result. I'm like, okay, I mean, this is a little bit better for sure. So now after we have all of these slides and these images, you download them onto your device. You already have your script. So now all we have to do is go into posting. And I'm going to add overlay screen recorder here to show how this is all going to look. But once you go onto your TikTok app to create a post, what you're going to do is just select images instead of videos, and you're going to be manually adding TikTok native text. So where many people go wrong who try to do this and haven't ever worked with me or followed my content, they'll add text to these images before posting. But the reality is that we have seen the best performing slideshows come from using TikTok's native text editor and the most common font. We don't use crazy fonts or anything like that. We want it to be readable and relatable. So just think of it like this way. If you're going through a TikTok, you're scrolling through and you see an ad, most times you know when it's an ad, not just because it says sponsored, but because it stands out. These big companies are making commercials like that stand out a lot, versus what we're doing is we're trying to relate into people's feed. We want them to pay attention to our post and not just immediately scroll by it. So when you make something that looks like something nobody's ever seen before, the odds of them staying on it are very low. And once all of the text is added to the slides, the only piece missing at this moment is now the music. And the music is an important part, but luckily it's also one of the easier parts of this entire process. So TikTok's algorithm is known to favor slideshows that are using current trending sounds. So often what I'm doing on TikTok is just saving sounds that I see are on other viral posts inside of my niche. And if you aren't doing that, you can just go ahead onto TikTok search and search up a page in your niche, go to their popular videos, and see what sounds they are using. And the indicator that I'm looking for to determine if a song is actually trending or not is looking at how many uses it has and how recent the most popular videos are. If I see that there's a song right now that I kind of like and it has a ton of uses, but all of the viral videos at the top of the hashtag are from over a year ago, not recently, then I probably am not going to use that one. And remember, the song you're going to be choosing should also still fit the same type of vibe that your slideshow is portraying. If it's all happy and good and value, you want to use more exciting, motivating kind of music and sounds. If it's something like this, where it's more a little bit darker, it's focusing on problems of single men, we really want to tap into the emotions and make them feel the emotion that we had chosen from the start. And in this slideshow specifically, I would say the most intense emotions we're trying to invoke with this slideshow are going to be sadness and fear. We're trying to trigger these people and get them to feel a certain way and state their opinion. The way we know that we've done our job correctly is if we have people that aren't just engaging by liking, but by commenting and saying, I definitely feel this way, or I know what I need to do now, or oh, I didn't realize this until now. You know, people are going to start to admit their flaws and their problems, and that's what we're trying to have happen. Because the best way for someone to remember you is by invoking some type of emotion. That's why platforms like TikTok have become so powerful. You could scroll through TikTok for 5 minutes and go through a post that makes you want to cry, one that makes you laugh, and one that makes you mad, and they do that on purpose. So don't think it's a bad thing that you're invoking these emotions. It's part of the game. It's part of how these businesses and these apps and these platforms work. All we're doing is plugging ourselves to be into a position where instead of just consuming all of this brain-melting content, we're producing content that invokes emotion, generates an audience of people that have a specific problem that we can then monetize with a digital product solution that helps these people solve their problems. And that's way more valuable than the people that just create these pages and post a bunch of shitty content that melts people's brain and makes them feel bad for themselves. We're here to help change people. And after you've added your song to the slideshow, it's important to add a caption and description. So you'll see for slideshows, there's going to be a top line and then a description line. So in the top caption, we're going to just put a few words about the post. And in the bottom description, we'll be putting just a few hashtags that are related to the niche. So in this case scenario, the top caption, I would probably do something a few words. Let's see, the script is all about single men and their problems. And I would say probably something along the lines of, the choice is up to you. And while, yes, I've been doing this for a while, I kind of have a sixth sense and can come up with these things quickly, I'll explain my thought process. If my hook is why men get overwhelmed by their negative thoughts and stay single, and my objective is to trigger these people by having them feel these problems and realize that they have them and state that and accept that, me saying the choice is up to you is kind of against that. Oftentimes people with a lot of problems, or in this case scenario, single men, will have this kind of victim mindset where the choice isn't up to them. It's their external circumstances. It's everybody's fault but themselves. So by putting that caption there, it just kind of adds to the triggering effect of this slideshow. And then in the description part, I would probably put 3 hashtags and put like hashtag single men, hashtag relationships, hashtag single. And now I have a simple description line, a good slideshow, and a couple hashtags to match it. Now, a little pro tip. Once you know how to do exactly what I've taught you so far, and you've actually done it a few times, I advise you to take it a step further and test. Experimenting gives you experience. Experience gives you education. And education gives you an advantage. So maybe for you, instead of creating images that match each emotion from the person with the problem, try a slideshow where your images match the opposite emotion. And it's coming from a person that's overcome the problem. So instead of slide number 5 being about unconfident, low self-esteem, single men believe they're not attractive or desirable enough to be in a relationship, maybe we use an image that's coming from someone who is confident, someone who is in a relationship, and they are stating this opinion instead of relating to it with a sad image like we have here. Now, don't get too ahead of yourself right now and start thinking about new ways to innovate on what I've shown you here. Just stick to the plan so far, but remember that it's important to experience once we get into the future lessons and get into your testing campaigns where you're going to be posting often. The more you do this, the more different ideas you'll have and you'll want to test and experiment. And that's how you get an advantage and make a breakthrough by seeing that something works that maybe you didn't think about before. And with that being said, right now you're probably feeling a couple different ways. Excited, maybe a little scared, maybe a little overwhelmed, or maybe even a little bit confused. And that's okay. It's important to understand and embrace every emotion you're feeling right now and address and figure out, why am I feeling this way? Is it because I'm confused about this part? Why am I excited? Oh, I'm excited to post. Cool. But if you try to just push away these emotions, you're just going to get even more overwhelmed in your mind and stop taking action. So in order to continue taking action properly throughout this course, you need to have clarity. And the way to have the most clarity is by addressing each of the doubts and motivating thoughts that you have inside of your mind. So take a minute to reflect if you need to. And in the next lesson, I'm going to teach you how to create videos using everything we just did right here. So I'll see you there. Peace.